Are you ready for crypto rain? Are you ready to experience what some of our friends and neighbors feel like is manna from heaven, money coming from nowhere? Well, if you are ready or if you're not, this show is for you because we're going to talk about crypto rain today on Crypto for Christians. Welcome, everybody. As you know, I'm Alex, a crypto enthusiast. And as always, I'm joined by Pastor Rick. How are you doing today, Pastor Rick?
I'm well, thanks.
I'm so glad to hear that. And you know, Rick, what we're going to talk about today are the unexpected and kind of unbelievable profits that many people who are currently invested in crypto are experiencing in their portfolios as the result of exponential growth. We've talked about this before on the show, and we've talked about, when this can happen, it can be very disorienting and hard for folks to deal with. There are a number of tendencies that I want us to talk about on today's show. And before we do, though, I want to talk about what's really happening. So first, to get something out of the way, it is not manna from heaven, and it's not a miracle. You might hear people talk about the crypto miracle or something like that. Well, there's nothing miraculous about it. Today, we're going to talk about what's actually happening and why a lot of folks can feel like, amazing things are happening in their crypto portfolio. Now, one of the things, obviously, is that there have been bull markets recently in crypto. So people who bought in at a certain time and then enjoyed part of the bull run have experienced, suddenly whatever they bought before is worth a lot more now than it was when they bought it. And what was that expression that you had, Rick? Something about bull markets?
Oh, well, basically, I've heard this said that, anyone's a genius in a bull market.
That's the one, so everyone's a genius. And so the first thing to make sure you don't do is to take it personally. That in a bull market, it's not your picks that necessarily accomplish it. It's the fact that the entire market is rising. And so, basically anybody who's in the market is probably going to be making money. And in fact, we have an article. I'm going to see if I can share the screen that we ran across. Both Rick and I had a pretty funny time finding this article. Let's see if it shares for everybody to take a look at. Here it is. It turns out that a hamster has been trading cryptocurrencies that are cage rigged to automatically buy and sell since June. And the hamster is currently outperforming the S&P 500. And here's an actual picture of the cage. The hamster, I guess, lives in here. And based on the hamster's behavior, it will buy and sell cryptocurrencies. And the hamster is up about 25%, which is beating the S&P 500. Now, hopefully our viewers will know that no, it's not your picks or any divine providence that's helping you earn money in crypto. The truth of the matter is it's been a bunch of bull markets. Now, unlike other markets, there are some things happening in the crypto market that also explain why it continues to have these bull tendencies. And what explains it best is something known as Metcalfes Law. Metcalfes Law simply refers to networks, and you can think of Facebook as being probably one of the most familiar networks that we've got. The value of a network increases as the size of the network increases. Now, if you think of participation in cryptocurrency as being a type of network, what's happening is people are getting in, they're seeing the potential of the technology, they're also making money, and then they're telling other people about the crypto space, and that means more and more people are getting into the crypto space. In fact, we started this channel to do exactly the same thing within a population that we felt really belonged in the crypto space, that we actually want to see in the crypto space. So we're participating in Metcalfes Law right now. There'll be some folks viewing this video that are like, okay, now that I understand it, I'm going to jump into the crypto space, and that will make the space even larger. And every time you have more and more people jumping in and buying cryptocurrencies, that's going to tend to push the average price of the typical cryptocurrency up and up and up. And so that's a lot of what's happening with these overall bullish tendencies. Now, before we talk too much about what to do with your money, please keep in mind that neither Rick or I are a investment professional. We are not certified financial planners. We're just folks that like to talk to people about the blockchain space and the massive changes that are coming as a result of blockchain technology. They're happening already, and we'll probably be touching on a couple of those more before we're done. Along with my crypto tip of the day, I will be recommending projects to our viewers, as always, just for their own research, to take a look at some of the more powerful, changing, and disruptive blockchain technologies that are coming out. But Metcalfes Law really explains a lot of these bullish tendencies. What Metcalfes Law will not do is change some of the basics of market dynamics. So there will still be very high ups, very low downs, a lot of volatility in the space. However, we do believe that Metcalfes Law is likely to pull the blockchain and crypto space on an upward trajectory for a very long time. And what this could do at times, Rick, is bring a whole lot of money to people who may not even be expecting it rather quickly. And our concern for Christians, and I think a lot of our viewers share these concerns, is how do folks balance their values when suddenly they have twice as much money as they started with? Some folks are going to have 3 and 4 times more money than they started with in a relatively short period of time. They might have promised themselves one thing when they started, and now they have all this money and suddenly they feel differently. So what kinds of moral and ethical challenges do you think this brings to people? How do we hold on to our Christian values when we're, when it's raining crypto money?
Well, Alex, what I would say is we have to look at this from a long-term perspective and think of it from, I look at it and want to use the story of Noah in this case as an example. Now, I'm not going to read any scripture about it. I think everyone's hopefully fairly familiar with the story of Noah. You can look it up if you need to. But the bottom line is, for God warned Noah that it was going to rain. It was going to rain so hard, it was going to flood the entire earth, and no one would be able to survive unless Noah built a boat. And God gave him very specific instructions about it, and he went ahead and started building the boat, and also preaching to everyone around him about the coming flood and how they needed to get right with God and, basically, be ready to get on board the boat in that sense. And of course, we know the outcome was everyone scoffed, they laughed at him. What's he talking about, rain? And they'd never seen that before. And so he built the boat, it was ready to go. He just got all the animals, God brought them all to the ark, they got on board. God himself shut the door, and then it began to rain and the floods came and everyone was beating on the door saying, let us in, let us in. And of course, Noah couldn't even open the door, if he wanted to. And then it was, tragic for them. But Noah his faith in God was proven. And so he and his family survived, and along with the animals. Now, what I think we have to understand here is that before the rains come, we have to be well prepared for what's coming. We have to be ready to, we've talked about these before, implementing Christian values, doing our Christian disciplines, being, ready at any moment to pray, praise, and, seek God for what he has in terms of his will for our lives. So all of that, combined, be willing to give generously of your time, of your resources, anything you have to further his kingdom, do those kinds of things. And then you're going to be in the right frame of mind, the right attitude, that right mindset, that when the rains come, it'll just be a part of your life, and then you'll be blessed. Now, I do want to read a scripture today, and it's from Job. And it's interesting because we know, again, the story of Job. He went through a very, very difficult time in his life. But Job 36, 26 to 28, and then verse 31 in the New Living Translation. Now, what it says is, look, God is greater than we can understand. His years cannot be counted. He draws up the water vapor and then distills it into rain The rain pours down from the clouds and everyone benefits. And in verse 31, by these mighty acts, he nourishes the people, giving them food in abundance. And so here we see, what scientists call the water cycle. And it's, of course, God created this and has put it in place, and it benefits everyone. That's how we are nourished, and he gives us food in abundance. And then, of course, other things are generated from that. So what we have to recognize is even our cryptocurrency investments, when they prosper, are a gift from God. And so when we keep that in our mind and we understand that, then we're going to have the right attitude going into it, saying, well, if God prospers me in this, then I'll be sure to tithe on it and, be generous with that. If he multiplies it, say 100-fold, well, great. And that'll allow me to benefit my family, other people, my church, my community. And, that's the idea. We have to be aware of that. We aren't going to start thinking, oh, well, at this point, all bets are off. I'm going to just start living the high life, going out and buying whatever supercar or whatever thing you would indulge in if you had more money than you knew what to do with. The idea is to look at it as a way that God is prospering you, and then, of course, also be responsible with it and say, well, I'm going to set a lot of that aside and not decide what to do with it for a long time. Give yourself a year and say, I'm going to put that aside, put it into some other wise investments, and then allow that to grow some more, and then consider what will I do with that. That's the mature Christian approach to any kind of a windfall.
That is so helpful, Rick. I just have to tell you that it is just so wonderful to hear you talk about that. When we started the channel, I was worried that, we're going to be bringing this world of, crazy markets and greed and, all this fast and potentially easy money to some of the best people in the world, our Christian brothers and sisters. And I was worried so much about the corruptive influence, and the piece that you and I made with it was that the blockchain is coming either way, that the technology and the crypto opportunities are going to be essentially in people's faces no matter what. And eventually we're all going to be transacting on the blockchain because it's the only, it's the most efficient system. It's similar to using the internet. There's virtually no way around it outside of something like the Amish or the Mennonites. And so, so here we are, how to handle this. And, your discussion is just so easy for me to follow as a believer. This just makes so much sense. I need to build an ark, and I need to prepare for this. And I want to accept whatever blessings I receive as blessings from God, and have that humility. This isn't about me being a blockchain project picker, although I'll be doing that in a moment. It's more about, basically being lucky to be alive, being lucky to be alive at this time, and being lucky to have found the grace of God and to receive his blessings humbly. And for what? For the greater glory of God, for the purposes that he's put me and my family here for. So just a wonderful message, Rick.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say when you say that. I think we all need to recognize that God has placed each of us onto this earth for such a time as this. That's such a wonderful promise for us in the Bible, and we can recognize that we weren't meant to be born in the time of Jesus or the time of the patriarchs, or God willing that doesn't come back for hundreds of years in the future. He put us here now, and what opportunities are available to us, he wants us to be able to take advantage of.
Right.
He gives them to us as a blessing. And so when we don't think, oh, I'm, so incredible because I chose this thing that's going up, and, even as we know, a hamster can do pretty well when everything seems to be going up like that. So not that we should think, let's go out and run out and buy a hamster, certainly do your research and all that. But the idea too is that we want to change our mindset first, like you said, build an ark and an actual, we don't need to go out and build a physical boat, but we actually have to expand our consciousness and our mindset to say to ourselves, it is very likely that these cryptocurrencies I invest in could go up exponentially in a way that I don't think is possible with necessarily any other investment that I could make. And so I have to be prepared for that. We have to expand our consciousness and recognize and say, well, if that happens, and it very well might happen, so I'm going to be prepared for it. I'm going to know mentally what my plan is, what I'm going to do with that, and not have it throw me for a loop. And we see that again with lottery winners when they don't, they want to win $1 million, say, but they aren't truly prepared for it. And then ultimately no one benefits from it. They end up giving a lot of it away to relatives who are, show up out of nowhere.
Right.
And then they don't really appreciate it as much as you might have hoped. And then, basically the money's usually gone within a year or two, and they're back to the exact same situation they were before. And the reason is because they did not change their mindset. They didn't start to believe in that they could manage such a large amount of money. And that's right. Really a big key in terms of building that arc, is to be able to look at yourself and say, I can manage much larger amounts of money than I do right now. And right. To really believe it and to know that and to prepare for that. Believe you can start to read books about it. What do the wealthy do with their money? How do they invest it? There's different ways that people who have, in a sense, too much money, they invest in a different way than people who have just enough to get by. And
that's
so
right.
That's my suggestion there. Extremely
helpful, Rick. I appreciate it so much. So I'm just really glad we could visit this topic, and I'm always grateful for us having this opportunity to share with our listeners and viewers. So I think that brings us to tip of the day. And so as our viewers have come to know, every time we do a new show, I will be highlighting a crypto project. And it's almost always the case that I own some of the coins that I'll be talking about. That's just because I really am an enthusiastic crypto investor, and it's very hard for me to find a project that's exciting that I would want to share with listeners without buying some of it, at some point along the way. And I just want to make sure everybody understands that. And it's not a huge amount of money or anything like that. And I just don't have any need to conceal that from our viewers. The project that I want to talk about today is one of the most exciting projects in cryptocurrency. It is a project that is currently 40th on the list of market capitalization. So it's in the top 50, but it's not a particularly large cap project. The big money, the huge exponential growth is probably a little bit gone on this one. There are some people that bought it at $8 when it started, and it's now running about $300 a coin. Now, a lot of folks are going to be thinking, wait, that's way too expensive. You just have to remember there are not very many of these coins. So I think there's only about 35 million of them, which puts it in the same category as Bitcoin. It's a very small number of tokens that will never increase. And what this particular project does is very unique. So the project is called Quant. That's Quant. And it still has a relatively low market cap. Remember that when you look at the market cap of a cryptocurrency, that gives you some idea of how much room does it have to grow. So this particular one is in the $3 or $4 billion range, which makes it, oh, wow, almost 20 times smaller than one of our favorite projects, Cardano. It makes it 200 times smaller than something like a Bitcoin, and maybe something like 100 times smaller than Ethereum. So a lot of room to grow on this project. And when you understand what it actually does, you'll really see how much room it has to grow. Quant is the best in class interoperability blockchain. What it does is it enables you to use multiple blockchains at once on their blockchain. And this is, and it doesn't matter which blockchain, any blockchain, doesn't matter what the programming language of the blockchain is, doesn't matter what the purpose of that blockchain is. Quant is able to interface with that blockchain and use it just as well as you could use it if all you were using is that blockchain. But with Quant, you can use multiple blockchains at once. It sounds almost too good to be true, and it's not. It's just very, very good. You're able to run smart contract decentralized applications on Quant that can run equally well and simultaneously on multiple blockchains at once. So if you're a person that believes that eventually most everything will be on a blockchain, some blockchain, you really, really want to take a very close look at Quant, because Quant is going to be that main blockchain that is going to be a layer on top of everything. And what it will do is it will let a shipping company that's using VeChain, because it's a specialized blockchain used for shipping, and it will let somebody pay them with Bitcoin, and it will let somebody else run a smart application on Avalanche that runs the contractual obligations between the shipper and the receiver and the retailer all at once, and all of it can be run from Quant, even though each other party is using a different blockchain. We will probably end up doing a dedicated show to Quant, but before we do, I always like to give our faithful listeners, those viewers who watch until the end of the video, I definitely wanted to give them a heads up that we will be taking a closer look at Quant, because it really is an incredible project with plenty of room to grow. The huge upsides in the shortest term are gone, but at $300 a token, since it's number 40 on the blockchain, it actually is a pretty good deal with as much expansive potential that it has. I actually believe it could be as big as Bitcoin at some point. It may even end up being bigger than Bitcoin, because it will actually subsume Bitcoin and all other blockchains all at the same time in a way that's really, really innovative. There isn't a competitor for this type of technology in this space currently, and they're looking to patent their technology that enables them to do it. So I certainly hope our viewers do some research, look into Quant, and let it rain.
There you go. That sounds great, Alex. We appreciate your information as always, and it's always exciting to hear about something like that. You don't share those with me before the show, so I'm just as excited and interested as all the rest of the viewers. So thanks again, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.
Sure thing. God bless.